Oxford from the inside. The good, the bad, but always the truth.
Hi, I'm Mary, and welcome to this episode of Oxford from the Inside, the good, the bad, but always the truth. Today we are joined by Abbie, who is a fellow interviewer at Oxford from the Inside, and also my sister. But we're just going to be talking about how Abbie wrote her personal statement for Earth Sciences. So do you want to introduce yourself a little bit, Abs?
Yeah, so I'm Abbie. I'm going into my second year studying Earth Sciences, as Mary said, and I go to St. Peter's College.
Lovely. Yeah, so as I said, we're going to be talking about how to write a competitive personal statement for Earth Sciences. So the first question I'd like to ask is, what is Earth Sciences? Why do you study? Why do you enjoy studying it?
So I suppose I love learning about the Earth, and I also love science, and so I feel like Earth Science just really encapsulated all that I love. And I just think it's quite a broad degree, and it basically entails so many different things, like from the ocean, space, lots of physics, but also chemistry and biology. Like I just love how much it mixes all these science disciplines together, and I think that was one of the things which really drew me to earth sciences, especially maths as well. I really enjoy doing maths, and earth sciences is quite mathy.
So for a subject that's so broad, how did you go about writing your personal statement?
So I remember before I started writing my personal statement, there's nothing really specific they ask for, because like you say, it's such a broad degree that there's so many things you can actually do for the degree person and the like for the earth science personal statement. So like I'd say, like, you can literally do anything. You can talk about trips you've gone on where you've like done observations, or you can talk about books you've read, or lectures you've attended, which are related to, I don't know, rocks, or related to the weather, or anything really. I mean, it's anything really which is applicable to Earth systems.
So how did you go about starting the writing process?
So I started writing my personal statement, I'd say in sort of August time, maybe late July, August time, because my school was kind of encouraging us to do it then. Um, so I think I started writing just everything that I'd done, and I wrote like sort of fat sort of paragraphs. Like I was like, I've been to the Grand Canyon, so I wrote a paragraph about that. I've been to Tenerife and climbed up Mount Tatey. So I wrote a paragraph about that, and just like a residential that I went to Cambridge, a study day that I went to with Oxford. So, and like books I'd read and stuff. I just wrote loads and loads of paragraphs, and I think from there I just sort of started cutting things out, adding things in, and I did my ending and my beginning, my first sentence. That was like the last thing I think I wrote for my personal statement. I just wanted to get all the bulk in, I think, initially.
So would you say you recommend just splurging everything you could think about writing onto a page and then going from there?
I think definitely. I mean, for me, that was my way of doing it. Because I think if you feel like you've done like quite a lot of stuff, then that's probably your best like way to go about it. But if you're someone who you're just like, I have no idea what I can put in my personal statement, maybe it's an idea to plan out like what you could write down, and then maybe go and read a book, watch a TED talk, listen to a podcast, or go watch a documentary, and then sort of talk about what you learned from that, what that led you to do, what you learned from no, like what skills you attained from that, and what you can bring forward to the degree. So yeah, I mean, splurge for me, that was my way of going about it. But there are other ways you can methodically plan your personal statement as well. That's another way.
So how did you structure the actual personal statement? Was it based on like topics or how?
So I think I kind of wrote sort of big paragraphs that sort of entailed different subjects, if you like. So one paragraph I sort of talked about magnetism on the ocean floor, and how you could look at the way that the magnetic field reverses in the rock record to try and determine age, which I thought was really, really cool. And then I sort of led on, and I was like, oh, So this sort of idea of, rocks having layers and stuff led me to look at stratigraphy. And so my next paragraph was about stratigraphy. So like the layering of rocks, basically, that's what stratigraphy is. And then I think I was talking about that, and I was like, and I remember on a field trip, I saw like a layer of volcanic ash or something like that. And then I was like, so this led me to look at volcanoes. So my next paragraph was about volcanoes then. So I think, so each paragraph was about a different subject, but sort of, I don't know, I had each paragraph beforehand leading into the next one, if you get me, just linking in all my sort of experience as well. So that's sort of the way I went about it.
Do you think that was an easy way of doing things? Would you recommend for a student applying to Earth Sciences to do it in a similar way?
I mean, I guess it worked, but I think the easiest thing for a student to do is to do it the way they want to. Like at the end of the day, it's a personal statement. It needs to have their personal touch. For me, having something like a lead onto the next paragraph was a lot easier for me because I was like, right, I've got a direction. I know where I'm going with this. But yeah, it's like I said, I mean, it is really entirely up to the student. If you want to take that idea and lead on to the next paragraph with a with something you've already said, yeah, go for it. I mean, it worked.
That's really, really great. So I guess another thing that's really important to highlight in your personal statement, I mean, it's sort of like you're trying to sell yourself to the university, like you're trying
Yeah.
to show them that you are a great candidate for the position, for the place, for this subject at this university. And so you need to demonstrate that you have the key skills to be able to succeed in this subject. So what would you say, after having studied it for a year, that the key skills are for Earth Sciences, and how do you think that students can show those skills through their personal statement?
Good. Yeah. I mean, that's pretty good actually. I think so. I think it's about being different because they always take. I mean, we always laugh about it because I'm pretty sure 90% of the Earth scientists put in the personal statement that they went to Iceland, which is great. Like everyone loves the fact, that you go to Iceland. That's such like a geologically active place. Like it's a great place to talk about. But everyone said it. I think to make yourself stand out, you need to be doing something different. So we do quite a lot of coding in our degree. So maybe a background in coding, potentially maybe access to something like Python or MATLAB or there's like even like some coding that you do in school. I know it's like got like a little squirrel or something. I didn't do it. So, but anything like that is brilliant. Also maybe attending sort of like going to like do some laboratory experiments in local universities, or maybe going somewhere which is a bit off the beaten track, which other people haven't been to, and talking about subjects which aren't as common. That kind of makes you stand out. And I think the most important thing, I think, is to show your thought process and maybe to start coming up with your own ideas, because one of my paragraphs, I talked about rocks that I found on the top of Mount Etna, and how I noticed the difference in density between the two rocks, even though they were from very similar regions. And I saw that one was redder than the other. And in my personal statement, I sort of drew to the conclusion that, oh, maybe one was denser because it had a higher iron content, and that's why it was red. So I think maybe things like this, I think that's the most important thing, that you're showing this idea of interpretation from observation, because that's something which is so important in geology. Like that is literally, they get you doing that from day one. And so being able to look at things and have a good interpretation based on what you already know is something which is very important. So yeah, I think that's definitely a skill you need to sort of show in your personal statement if you want to apply for Earth Sciences.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. That you really want to show these like critical and analytical thinking skills, and also your ability to problem solve and hypothesize and things, because this is what makes a great scientist. And Earth
Yeah.
Sciences is obviously a science, so definitely, yeah. If you can, it's useful just in
It's
science.
obviously a science. Oh, yes, it is. Oh gosh.
But yeah, definitely, if you can draw to your own conclusions using knowledge that you already have and applying it to a rock you may never seen before, that's going to be so impressive to the tutors.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
any type of skills that are, like general skills that are important for Earth Sciences? For example, I know like organization is an example, but obviously that's important for
Yeah.
everything. But certain skills that are important that you can sort of demonstrate.
I think being able to take criticism, I think, is just a one in general that is good for just any Oxford degree, I think. Um, yeah, because I feel like students who are applying to Oxford are generally the students who always do well, which is obviously the case. So I feel like being able to sort of take criticism and build from that and learn from it is really important. Also good communication, I think, especially with the earth sciences, especially because we do lots of external field trips. You need good communication in the field, especially when we work on our mapping projects, which is something we do in our second year, at the end of our second year. So having that good communication is really important, and it's something which would be quite good to convey. Maybe if you've done some sort of group project, that might be worth mentioning. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, like you said, analytical and critical thinking is so important. And I think being able to I think also being able to think outside the box, like being given a situation and being able to not just like sort of focus narrow-mindedly, well, no, you know what I mean, like being sort of one-track mind onto one sort of idea. You need to be able to think, go down a path and think, no, okay, so it could be down this path, but then it could also be down this path. Like being sort of adaptable is another very sort of desirable trait, I think, especially for the sciences in Oxford.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's really, really good. And yeah, I think a useful way that you can sort of tie that in at the end, and it's something that I did, is that when you're listing your extracurricular activities, those things that you'd like to put in at the bottom, maybe like head girl, prefect, D&V,
Yeah.
I don't know, part-time job. You can say the skills that you've developed from those jobs and then link it back to how that's going to make you great for a position in earth sciences. And that's a really good way of doing it, and allowing you to make those extracurriculars relevant. Yeah,
Yeah,
so
definitely. Yeah.
um, just before, when you were talking about it's good to be different, a lot of people have been to Iceland, try and do something different. Now, I know that we were very lucky in that we got to go to the Grand Canyon, and obviously we've been to Tady when we were younger. So we have been lucky to have these opportunities where we can go abroad and look at these like incredible earth, I don't know what they're called, monuments. I don't know, they're definitely not monuments, but
Structures.
structures, yes. But for somebody who can't afford this, can't afford to just jet off to, I'm not saying we can afford to just jet off to the Grand Canyon, but if people are struggling for money, what can they do from home to show their passion for earth sciences?
I mean, I think the one true thing to highlight with earth sciences is, and it's a lot of prospective students have already asked me this. It's they seem to think that you require work experience for earth sciences because it's such a practical degree. And that's really not the case. Like you don't have to have flown all the way to Antarctica and studied Mount Erebus. Like no, don't worry about it. Like that's chill. And we all come from different backgrounds, and the department is completely and utterly aware of that. So I'd say if you were going to try and do something sort of low budget but also really really useful, just reading online ebooks. Becoming a member of the Geological Society of London is also something which is really really cool. It's literally a £10 membership to be a junior candidate fellow. You literally just go on the website, put in your details, pay the money, and for a year you've got a membership as a junior candidate fellow. And they always send out, so you get a magazine each month. You can read the magazine, talk about the new and present things in geology that which is quite good if you stay update with the current sort of affairs of geology. That shows that you're shows interest, shows that you're keen. Also, for students especially, they send out lectures that you can attend, so you can sign up to them, and these lectures are normally online, especially during this period of where we've had coronavirus. So that's also something you can do. Just things that you don't even need to leave your house to do them. Read a book, watch a TED talk, even watching a bit of David Attenborough. Like this is all stuff which shows your interest. Going into your garden and studying wind speed if you must, like if you really feel like you need to do something completely practical, like that's also showing that you've taken the initiative, you've done something new, which is outside of your A-level perspectives, outside of what you did at GCSE, like just something which just makes you look different. It shows desirable skills, I think that's just what you need to go for.
Definitely. And like you said, Oxford understand that not everyone's going to have equal opportunities. And they will always, it's always contextualized. So don't stress about that. And there is always something you can do to demonstrate your passion. And there's not a hierarchy of demonstrating your passion. Like reading a book or watching an online lecture is just as good as flying out and being right in the middle of a volcano. You know, it's yeah, there's no hierarchy. Just do what you can and do what you're passionate about. Don't force yourself to do something that you don't enjoy, because I mean, it's grim for you, you know. So yeah, that's really good. But also it's really nice for your family if you don't get. I mean, I love to go around the Grand Canyon, but little Miss Earth Sciences over here made us go into this like museum-y room which went through all the rock formation processes and things.
Come on, you've got to. Come on, humour me.
And me and my brother were like, can we please go out and see the Grand Canyon? Yeah, it was, yeah. So yeah, it might save your family some geeking out from you if you do something at home. But no, it's all good, Abbie. We appreciate your love for Earth Sciences. Honest. Yeah, so you've talked a little bit about different supercurricular resources and what can make you stand out on your personal statement. But how important do you think the first line is to your personal statement?
So do you know what, so I did Unique this summer, and I was an ambassador for Earth Sciences for it. And one of the students actually asked one of our tutors this question, and they literally said, literally, don't worry about it. They're looking at they look at so much for your application, that having a bad first line in your personal statement will not ruin your chances of getting into your degree at all. Try and get something which is gripping, which isn't too cliche or cringy. But don't spend like hours and hours and hours trying to think of some amazing grand thing. Like, I mean, I'll read you mine if you want. So I said, we live on a planet which has the ability to sustain life, but also the power to destroy it. So like, I feel like that's quite a basic sentence. It's kind of just like, yeah, planet can, sustain or destroy. Like it's a basic fact, but at the same time, it's kind of like it sets the tone, And I think, yeah, don't spend ages trying to come up with some amazing rhetorical question, or the ice caps are going to melt, what are we going to do? Or I've loved Earth Science since I was a fetus. Like it's not true, and it's a bit cringy. And yeah, I mean, realistically, the tutors won't take you seriously if you've got something really like silly. So yeah, don't really just spend like max 10 minutes trying to think of your first sentence, because it really doesn't matter, as the content is what matters. And showing your enthusiasm, that is the most important thing. Show your enthusiasm.
Do you remember how you came up with that first line? Do you remember the process you went through, or did it just come to you?
So actually in my first paragraph, my EPQ was about Yellowstone National Park, and I was thinking, well, we've got some things on the planet which, it's, with the way it is, extremophile organisms can live there, and without it, they wouldn't be able to live there. And so this is like, it's a way of providing and sustaining life. But then I thought, well, if Yellowstone erupts, it can also completely destroy as well. It can, it would wipe out half of America. And I just thought, well, the Earth itself has the power to both sustain and destroy life. And I just thought, well, I suppose that's a good way to start it off, isn't it? So I put that in, and it kind of worked. I stuck with it.
No,
But yeah, I was just gonna say, like, you can just think of anything, to be honest. Yeah, I mean, the Earth's a big topic, and I think there's a lot of things which are like, whoa. So yeah, be creative, but yeah, keep it in line with the personal statement vibe, though. Don't, like, you're not making a new documentary or anything like that.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think that's really, really good tips. And yeah, exactly. The first line isn't the most important thing. It doesn't matter if you've got an awful first line if the rest of your personal statement demonstrates you are so truly passionate about your subject. So yeah, do not stress about that. People always laugh at my first line, but you'll have to watch the biochemistry episode to hear what my first line is. So yeah. Another question is that, as you said, earth science is very, very broad. And you obviously have particular interests. You prefer sort of physical, I don't know what
Yeah,
you
I mean,
call
yeah,
it.
I like paleobiology, that's really good, but I
Okay.
also quite like the sort of volcanism side of it as well. So quite different, but yeah,
So there
kind
are
of very
aspects of the course that you enjoy less.
yeah.
And so did you talk about them on your personal statement too, or did you keep it to what you're sort of interested in? And is it okay to be specific about what you enjoy?
I think definitely it's okay to keep it narrow. Well, not narrow in as such, but like it's okay to only talk about what you're interested in. But I also think it's good to show that um you're all right with exploring new topics, because at the end of the day earth science is something it's quite new, like you don't really touch on it in school, and I think you should embrace the fact that you can, you know, enter into these new sort of areas of science and just like learn about them. So like I had heard nothing about the Earth's magnetic field. We'd sort of talked about it in physics when we were doing magnetism, but we didn't really touch on it. And so learning about how that reversed and changed the rocks blew my mind. I thought it was amazing. So stuff like that, like just yeah, I mean, just yeah, I think definitely talk about what you're interested in, because at the end of the day, it's a personal statement. You want a personal tone and you want to show enthusiasm. Um, and also it's quite good because throughout the degree you will specialize down and you'll start focusing on something that you enjoy. But I think in first year it's very, very broad. So either way, like whether you just want to do volcanoes or not, like you're gonna have to study everything anyway. So I think keep it broad, but don't be afraid to also maybe just go down like one field of just, I don't know, petrology or um, atmosphere, or, you know, maybe have one or two different things, well, two or three different things actually, and then just talk about them, you know. I think that's probably the best course of action.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's so much easier to demonstrate your passion for the subject if you're talking about things you are genuinely passionate about. It comes across so much more than, yeah, than if you read something that you didn't really enjoy and you're just trying to look passionate. So yeah, definitely. And also another top tip from that is to understand what the subject is. So some people say to you, "Oh yeah, Earth science is just rocks," and I mean, I say that to her all the time. All you do is just lick rocks and look at rocks under a microscope. But Earth sciences is such like a broad subject, and there's so much that it encompasses. And even if you don't talk about all the aspects in your personal statement, I think it's very, very important to understand what Earth sciences is. One, before you
Mhm.
apply, because it might not be for you. And two, if you end up having an interview at Oxford, you need to be prepared that you could be asked about anything within the earth science
Yeah.
bubble. So yeah. Anything you want to add to that?
I would definitely second what you said in that you need to know your subject when they ask you about it, because my second interview, they sort of asked me questions from my personal statement. It doesn't happen all the time, but they would sort of touch on topics that I talked about. And if you don't have a good idea of what you talked about, then they're going to be like, "Oh, did you not read this?" Or, "Oh, you clearly didn't understand what you were reading. Like, can you not read?" Like, it's obviously it won't be that mean, it won't be that savage, but like it kind of just
Can you
shows,
not read?
can you not read? It kind of just shows, I don't know, like you haven't got a very analytical brain, and also yeah, it would be really awkward as well for you, as like if you just rock up and then pardon the pun, but if you just rock up and you just don't know what you're talking about, because at the end of the day you are talking to people who are absolute experts in the field. Not to like that let that scare you, by the way, because they understand that students come with a relatively knowledgeable background, if that makes sense. But yeah, um yeah, I mean, definitely know what you're talking about and have a good idea of your personal statement before you go for interviews, definitely.
And what's your top tip then for understanding the subject that you may never have studied at school? Because obviously earth sciences isn't a common subject at school. Geology, I mean, a lot of you guys didn't even do geology at A level.
Hmm.
It was completely new. So how do you educate yourself to a level that you can talk about it confidently on a personal statement and then maybe even an interview?
So I think the main thing to do is to really not stress about trying to learn so many new things between, you know, the end of year 12 and then up to is December is when the interviews are. Like, don't try and cram loads and loads of learning. Like, don't try and start learning all the rocks. Like, it's all, they're not going to ask you any of this. I think the most important thing is to consolidate your A levels, consolidate what you've learned and what you think could be related to the earth, and then just to focus on a few key things. Maybe look at the most current affairs in geology. I think that's a really good thing to do. Like I talked about, I think I remember I talked about there'd been a recent eruption, in Kilauea. So at the time there was like a really big eruption with Kilauea, and it caused lots of destruction. And I feel like that's like keeping up with current affairs is something which shows interest and that you are keen. And I think that's definitely something you want to convey. But yeah, I mean, just don't worry. I think that's the thing. It's so broad, and you can ask so many different things. And like, I've talked to all my friends, and they've all put different things to me in their personal statement, and I'm like, well, there we go. Like, we're all completely different. Like Mary, like you said, Mary, like we have all different A levels. Only 30% of my cohort this year did geology A level. So like, and what the beauty is, they cater the interviews as well to the A levels that you've done. So I had sort of an interview which had like a physics and a biology slant, but then also a sort of chemistry slant in the other one. And then they sort of, if you like, put you sort of out of your comfort zone and make you think more when they start asking you geology questions. So they might do that for someone with chemistry, or they might do that for someone who hasn't done biology. So yeah, don't worry about learning loads and loads of new stuff. Focus on things which interest you. Look at current affairs, look at the news, but most of all, enjoy yourself. And just remember that interviews, no matter how hard you prepare for them, you're probably going to find them relatively difficult. So like, that's just the nature of the interview. And don't be afraid. Don't be worried if you do, because everyone does.
Definitely, yeah. And to finish off, I guess, what is your one top tip for writing an earth sciences personal statement?
Show enthusiasm. And I'm literally quoting one of my tutors and what he said to the students on Unique. Show enthusiasm. You need to show that you enjoy the subject, because you're doing the degree for 3 or 4 years. Like, it's a long time in the grand scheme of things. And I think if you can't show enthusiasm, you can't show some sort of underlying like enjoyment and passion for the subject, then they can pick up on that straight away. Because there's only so much that your grades can do, that your teacher's reference can do. So it's really about showing that enthusiasm, and that really keen interest, because we're a small cohort, and yeah, they want to be able to find the people who are most who love rocks as much as they do. So
well, they were right to pick you, Abbie, because that's all she talks about: rocks, and more rocks.
I'd have had you
odd earthquake. Bit of
oi. Yeah. I'd have had you look around the entire Grand Canyon if I could, but we had to leave.
Yeah, we only needed, I mean, we were there for quite a long time, Abbie.
Quite like the whole day, but it's cool.
Sunset, sunrise. Yeah. Oh, right. That's great. So, yeah, really, really great tips. And yeah, don't stress about your personal statement. It's only one part of the application process.
Yeah.
And they will contextualize everything. They take everything into account. You also have your teacher's reference, your predicted grades, everything else. Hopefully your interview, if you get an interview too. So yeah.
And if you as well, so I was just going to say, like, as well on UCAS, if you've got any like sort of extenuating circumstances, you can also put that down, and they also take that into account as well. So I think, yeah, don't worry about having a complete and beautiful personal statement, because they look at you as an individual as well.
Definitely, yeah. And just remember to show you've engaged with what you've done with your supercurricular activities, show engagement and show your enthusiasm, like you said, Abbie. That's the most important thing. Yeah, definitely. So yeah, that's all we have time for today. We've learned some really, really interesting things about how to write a personal statement for Earth Sciences. And top tip, if you're thinking of studying Earth Sciences, go away and research what Earth Sciences is and make sure it's for you. And this will ensure that you can write a great personal statement because you actually know what you're talking about. But yeah, thank you so much for sharing your experiences and your top tips, Abbie. That's so, so useful. And thank you for our followers for watching this. And also have a look at our other personal statement videos and all the other episodes we've got. We've got a huge range and we've got loads more to come. Remember to follow us on Instagram and check us out on YouTube. We're also on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Facebook, everywhere. We're everywhere. So just come find us, give us a like, give us a follow, give us a watch. Yeah, so thank you for your continued support. And I hope you all stay safe and well. And until next time, bye.